We are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first very special edition of Black History Month, Trap Chat with the Shark. We are joined today by a very special guest, all the way from North Carolina, Miss Kimberly Codrington, the founder of
What?
Verdant Bloom Coaching and Wellness. She describes herself as an HR sage and a spiritual maven. So we're going to have to get into that. Kimberly, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, thank you so much for that intro. Yes, again, my name is Kimberly Codrington. I am the founder of Verdant Bloom Coaching and Wellness.
Morning.
Um, and yeah, so an HR sage and a spiritual maven, right? It's like, okay, what the heck is that, right? So for me, as an HR sage, I refer to myself as an auntie a lot.
Yes.
And so as I have experienced HR in my own way, I have realized that there is very transactional,
Mhm.
and we have taken the humanity out of it, and everybody's kind of operating like a robot, right?
Hmm.
Right.
So for me as an HR sage, it's like, okay, let's bring a little bit of wisdom back to this. Let's bring a little bit of wholeness back to the function of human
Yeah.
resources. So I call myself an HR sage because I do that. I do that. I'm like, okay, well, let's just bring it down a little bit. Let's talk about the basic underlying foundational things that we're trying to accomplish here and
Right.
how is the best way of approaching that. So that's why I call myself an HR sage. And then in terms of the spiritual maven, that's not something you hear a lot in corporate America, right?
No.
It's like kind of
Mm-mm.
like spiritual stuff. What is that about? But why not? And and in the recent times, I've realized that it's been very important for me to maintain a sense of spirituality to continue to do the job that I do in the best way that is possible. So,
Hmm.
a maven is someone who's either an expert or a connoisseur. I kind of lean more towards the connoisseur. I'm a non traditional Christian
Yes.
that believes in a little bit of woo woo and
Woo woo.
woo woo. So I've kind of created, I guess, my own way of staying in tune with source and the creator so that
Hmm.
I could be and present myself in the best way possible with still a lot of love and compassion and empathy for people. So that is me in a nutshell.
I love it. And
Wow.
I love how, over the course of a few years, because I've been acquainted with you for a few years, just the way that I don't like to call things like your circle. It just sounds like, like you're trying to be exclusive, but we're really
Right.
not. We're including the people that fit, and just the way that things have evolved and how people have just really come into their own. Like it's been beautiful for me to watch. It's been beautiful for me to watch you, like I said, just evolve and transcend and really own your things. I know this summer we had an opportunity to be on a panel together on a world
Yeah.
stage, which was very exciting and also very enlightening, we'll say. Vanessa says, "Good morning, everyone."
Good morning.
It's very enlightening. And during that time, we talked a lot about authenticity, being a Black woman and showing up at work. What are
Mhm.
some ways that, especially during Black History Month, that we can do that, without being so performative and so just like say Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. Oh, speaking of, happy birthday, Rosa Parks in heaven. Uh, yes,
Happy birthday.
yes. So we can just so that we can do things that are more meaningful and more authentic. What are some ways that we can start to try and show up? I should say try to.
Oh man, honestly, you have to really, and this is something I've been thinking about for a while.
Hmm.
We don't even recognize our own sentience anymore. We don't even identify as like we are actually conscious people,
Yeah.
right? That are trying to do a job. It comes job first, and then maybe tertiary, maybe even further down, you are this human existing, right? Um, how can you show up in human form if you don't even acknowledge your own humanity on a daily
Mm,
basis?
Mm-hmm.
And so it starts there. You have to acknowledge that I am an actual person with feelings and thoughts and anxieties and fears, and hope and gratitude and happiness. Like all of those things are okay. And a lot of times when you're going to work and you're trying to show up, you're just so focused on the day and what I have to accomplish and what I need to do and am I going to get in trouble if I don't meet this mark and things like that. And we kind of take away just the fact that we are human beings existing, trying to make it in this world. And it's okay if we fail that day or whatever your example of failure may be. And then you can get back up and do it again. So first of all,
Yes.
let's acknowledge that we're human. Let's human.
no, that was
We are human. And today is just one day in the drop of many. Have some gratitude for that day, even the things that suck. Like, you know what? Having this horrible thing happen, and it sounds cliche, but it's like, yeah, but I'm still here. I'm
yeah.
still existing. And this is a great opportunity for me to learn from this and be better from this. I always often say everything is a lesson or a blessing. Shout out to Iyanla Van Zant. Um,
Yes.
everything is a lesson or a blessing. And when you're able to really look at it from that perspective, you can at least show up and be present in the moment for that day, as opposed to just looking at it from a transactional, I have to get this amount done. And you still have to do that. You still have a job to do. I'm not saying to forget that, but I'm just saying we need to kind of move the pendulum over a bit and acknowledge that we're also very human. We're having
Mhm.
a human experience. I have the right to feel what I feel. I have the right to have anxiety today. I have the right to feel fear today and not let that be the thing that says I'm a failure because I am not having, the best day according to whatever society says that should be. I hope that answers the question.
No, it
Oh
does.
my.
And it touched on so many things. Do you
Mhm.
think that we put that on ourselves? That constant, I don't know if need is the right word, but that constant need or striving to be black and excellent at the same time every single day, especially those of us that are in HR, those of us that are in recruiting, those of us that have some people operations type of role. Do you
Mhm.
think that we put a lot of those expectations on ourselves, or does society put them on ourselves and we accepted them?
I think it's a hybrid,
Okay.
honestly. I think it's a hybrid. I think it started with um, the outside judging and making
Mhm.
assumptions and having these expectations that don't always align, right? We are all human, okay? We can say that, but let's be honest, we all have cultural experiences that are different. We also have environmental situations that are different. So, yes, we're all human at the end of the day, but we've all had different nuances in our lives that have made us who we are. And I feel like um, a lot of the times, if it doesn't look like what it feels it should be for me, then it's wrong, as
Mm.
opposed to kind of creating a space of saying, okay, I don't know what that is. I don't know why you do the things that you do, but let me understand. There's no space of understanding. It's just like, okay, this is how I do things, and you're not doing it this way, so you're wrong. And eventually, you be the person who's on the receiving end of that starts to adopt and gets conditioned to believing, okay, well, I must be doing it wrong because this is not leading to the success I expected for myself.
Mm.
So let me begin to adjust and move. And listen, adjusting and growing and evolving is not a bad thing. But when it is to conform to somebody else's way of doing things, it can be detrimental. And now you're not showing up authentically. You're not showing up
Ooh,
um, present.
I
You're
love
right.
just performance at this point because you just want to make it. Okay. So you're just like, okay, this is going to make them feel comfortable and lead to potential success. So let me continue to do this. Meanwhile, you're just kind of continuing to suppress your authenticity because you're just, again, and this is something we talked about on the global panel, you're in survival mode now. So you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, let me go in here and do this thing so that people can view me as a value add or a success or important to the collective. You know what I mean? Organization. So,
Wow.
I gotta ask you real quick, what is success? I just love what you said there because you know what you summed up is we all have to be leaders, not followers. But what is success in a day? I mean, it's what the best you've done every day, right?
absolutely. And I think we have to really define what that is for ourselves. Like
Yes.
we are constantly adapting someone else's idea of success. It is time, shout out Maxine, Mother Maxine, reclaim
Your
your
time.
identity, reclaim your definition of what success is. You have to really identify that for yourself. And again, when are we spending time doing that? We're out here trying to survive the Rona. We're trying to make sure we have a job. Is
Mhm.
unemployment going to be okay? What's going on in the government? Like you don't have the capacity anymore to just say,
Right.
okay, let me spend a few minutes with myself and let me introduce myself to myself again. What does that even mean? You can't even wake up in the morning and just be like, I'm grateful for the day. Furthermore,
Thank
asking
you.
yourself
Thank
what
you.
success, what, despite asking what success means for you. You know what I mean? So this is a daily practice you have to
Yeah.
begin to incorporate in your life so that you can actually get to those deeper questions. So, what is success? Success is whatever you say it is. Okay. It could be
Yes.
just like, I woke up this morning and I had a great cup of coffee. The end. Okay. Like that's it.
And I'm still drinking.
Me too. So,
We're all on our
yeah,
coffee.
we're all in caffeination right now. We're
Shout
cheers.
out. Shout out. So Vanessa says, I'd agree. It's a hybrid. Society expects us to overachieve. Frankly, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Listen, that's Vanessa's one of my soul sisters. She's one of
Mhm.
Richard's sisters as well. Um,
Nice.
and let me just tell you, like, I literally said that in a text message this morning. Like, I'm tired. And I listed the things I was tired of. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. And I'm
Uh-huh.
tired of this. And so on. And
Mm-hmm.
and I really, really do have a Tupac spirit this morning. Um, that's the shirt. Had to remind myself to be blacknificent since birth. Shout
Woo.
out to Pink Gator Gear for the shirt. But yeah, I really do have that hit 'em up Tupac spirit this morning. And if you know that song and you know how it starts, first of
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
all, yes, that's where I am. So first of all, I'm tired. So
Yes.
again, we always try to, keep the HR in our talks here and the
Yeah.
recruiting and the staffing in our talks. So when we're there, when we're on that, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I don't feel like it today. There's another gentleman, Shally Steckel, that says, don't let people get your goat. When someone's gotten your goat, like, what do you do? Like,
Um,
especially when you work in with people, when you are, what
oh,
do
the
you do those
people.
days? What do you do those days?
You have to make a decision. I know that from my own experience, I remember one time I was working and I had just had a gazillion things on my plate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was getting to the point where I was like, okay, I don't usually wave the white flag. I'm like, I'm just going to keep going, going to keep churning.
Mm-hmm.
But at that moment, I recognized that I had to have agency. I had to advocate for myself or I was going to snap.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to my manager at the time or supervisor, and I said, hey, listen, can I have like a 2 to 3 week reprieve? Like, I need a moment to like catch up on all these other tasks that I have been given, and I need to, because my intention was to be the best, right? I don't
Yeah.
think anyone goes to work saying I'm going to just be a a C plus. You know what I mean? Everybody goes to work like, I'm going to be A plus employee, right?
Hey now. They got some badass C's out there. So
Now that's very true. Very, very true. But I'm sure the intention is to be an A plus, right? So, I had made that request and it was not met with empathy. It wasn't met with that. It was kind of met with, how dare you ask for this time? You get paid very little, I might add, to do these things, and that's what it's going to be. And so it turned into this little rift for a moment, and I couldn't understand, because the request had always been, if you're getting too much, if it's da da da, just communicate with me. And so when I finally took, pulled that card and was like, hey, I need a moment, it wasn't met well. But I had to still advocate for myself. And it was like, okay, so you're not gonna agree, you're not in we're not in alignment with this, right? So I had to just take it on my own, because I know me and I know where I was at, and I still wanted to perform well. So, it was difficult, but I still had to choose me, because I have to go home with me at the end of the day. And so I just made little adjustments on my own without communicating any further, because I knew it wasn't going to be met with any empathy. So I decided that I was going to kind of readjust what I did so that I can have some peace and some reprieve for myself. I made sure I left on time, because I would often stay late.
good.
So I would leave on time. And when I got home, I did not do any work. I did not, because it was kind of like this unspoken expectancy of like, okay, take your laptop home. And it was kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? But I went home and I checked out, because that's what I needed. And then when I felt like I was getting kind of back up to getting my sanity back, then I started to, churn out more work again. But sometimes you have to make the decision for you. Actually, oftentimes, all times, you have to make that decision for yourself, because you're the only one that knows you.
Right.
And it may not be met with, the hope and the acceptance that you might hope for, but you still have to choose you. You have to find ways to reconnect and find the space you need to continue to be human, to continue to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
And that's just my answer on that. You might have to do it kind of under the table, but you have to
I
do
love
it.
it.
Yes.
And I love that you brought up empathy, because I wrote a piece, and that was published yesterday about about the things that I myself have run on, and it's like running on E. So if you have a Black mama, she's probably said that. Like, how are you doing? I'm running on E. And that usually means empty, exhausted, And there were times I talked about running on energy, running on empathy, and my desire to make the normal state running on excellence. So when I talked about running on empathy, I was saying that there was while it's a positive thing, it can be a toxic positivity. It can have some unwelcomed consequences. Again, especially when you're in roles like we are, where we are, when we're our best, we're empathetic, with other people. And I had done that in my previous roles in corporate America, where I told people what was going on, especially whoever was managing me, or my my close hiring managers, because the way that our business was set up, like I was not only a lead recruiter, but like I was the go-to person for certain critical programs. So I had to let them know, listen, like when my sister was pregnant and going to have a baby, and I was determined to be there when she gave birth. I was like, like when I get that call, I'm out.
Right.
But, that the next year, like my grandmother was in hospice, and I'm like, if I get a call, I'm leaving. And I remember that, like, there's pictures of me in my sister's room after she had given birth on my laptop. No. The next year, gosh. I'm literally sitting on my grandmother's couch. Now, I got in a call, and when she passed away, and I packed up my stuff, rolled my laptop down the hall, told my boss, And he was like,
Mhm.
okay. Started making
Mhm.
phone calls on my way, like I told one of my line sisters, hey, do this. I got home to my cousins. My cousins live in DC. I called them and I'm like, listen, I'm on my way. Like I packed some stuff
Mhm.
and I headed up the road. And they were like, well, when will you be back? I don't know. I was gone for 2 weeks, but I promise you, I just got into Philadelphia. I hadn't gotten to my parents' house. I just went straight to my grandmother's house. I'm sitting on my grandmother's couch and my work cell phone rings. And it's one of my hiring managers in Korea who knew the situation. He didn't know she had passed, but that was the first thing I said. Oh, I'm in Philly. My grandmother passed. Is this important? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. No, it's not important. And then they go ahead to tell me what it is that they want. And that's when I got to the place that you were, because you already made me responsible,
Yeah.
when you said it's not important, that should have been the end of it, but you told me what
Correct.
it was. And now, because you know me, I'm going to do it, or I'm going to make sure that it gets done. And if I have to make sure that it gets done, that's more of a chore for me, because I got to follow up with the person that I asked to get it done, so
Right.
that was the point where I drew the line and I started turning off my phone at night.
Good job.
And it was hard because, like I said, there are job seekers that I know. Like sometimes I don't want to say go over the line, but there's some job seekers that we give a bit more attention to, that we give a bit more empathy to. So my question for you is: at what point do HR, recruiting, staffing, people in the people business, at what point do we give back to ourselves? Like, at what point do we get the empathy? Do we get the grace? Do we get the care that we give out? Or how do we ask for it?
Mm,
Oh,
that's a great question. I really believe you have to, from the very beginning, set boundaries.
Okay.
I find that as young employees, you go in and you're just like, I'll do whatever needs to be done as long as you keep me here employed. And that oftentimes gets abused. Or if
mhm.
you are someone who hasn't had a job for a while and
Oh
you're
yeah.
just so happy to have employment, again, you kind of do the same thing where it's just like, whatever you need. 12 o'clock in the morning, I'll respond to the question that you sent. You know what I mean? And then that sets a different expectation now. It's like, oh, it's like the Mikey commercial from back in the day. It's like, give it to Mikey.
He
Oh
likes
He'll
my.
eat
it.
it. You know what I
Yeah.
Are
mean?
we just dating ourselves?
I mean, perhaps.
No, but I like
I
that.
love it.
No, I like that. I like that, Rich. We gotta add that to the lexicon. Like, you're not Mikey. You don't have to like it. No.
No. And you have to really set firm boundaries and expectations.
Yes.
And you can do that in love. You can do that with a great deal of respect and professionalism, as to say, hey, on these days, I'm able to do a little bit more, but on these days and on these occasions, I don't believe I'll be the absolute best for you. So it's important for me to take this time and, kind of recalibrate and read and breathe a moment so that I can show up absolute for you on those times that you really need it. You can certainly reframe it in any way you need to. But
Mhm.
in the very beginning, I will say, dare even say in the interview, you have to kind of set
Oh.
those soft boundaries like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm able to do, because listen, it's an interview. The interview is two-way. Okay. The
Mhm.
interview is two-way. You're interviewing them and they are also should be interviewing you. How do you
Exactly.
feel about me having time for myself? I have children or I have a family or I just don't want to
Right.
sometimes.
I
So,
know.
um, so if I need every Wednesday for me to do yoga or for me to just veg out and watch Netflix and eat popcorn and candy, is that something that you're going to be okay with? Or are you going to say, yes, I'm okay with it now? And then on that Wednesday, you're always reaching out to me saying, hey, can you do X, Y, and Z? And it's like, didn't I tell you that I don't do Wednesdays? So you really have to really set those boundaries and those expectations very early
Okay.
so that it becomes kind of like okay, we know Kimberly, she doesn't do Wednesdays, okay, and it's not a bad thing. It's just this is her time to make sure she's the best for us.
I,
So that's the way I would reframe something like that.
I love that you brought it to the interview. So job seekers, or people looking to switch jobs, move on to another company, take that. That was excellent advice. During the interview is when you should be really figuring out who the company is and how they fit you. And I know a lot of people don't like to use the word fit, especially when it comes to culture fit. And I get it. But from a job seeker perspective, I do think that it's necessary to know if that company is right for you and if they meet your vision, your mission, and your values for yourself.
Totally agree.
So, Rich, any other questions? Because I want to do one. I think I want to do one like fun Black History Month question. Not like trivia or anything. But
I'm like, wait a minute.
No. He's like, you put her on the spot. It's like, holy cow.
No.
Oh my goodness. Well, Kimberly, I got a couple questions for you. First, I want to say praise the faith. I mean, just what you're saying right now is what I do every day. And one thing I'm going to tell the viewers out there, this is something, Kimberly, you'll love. I get up every morning and look in the mirror and say, thank God I'm alive. I love myself. Then I can love other people around me that day and make it your best day. I mean, that's my grandma taught me that, God bless her. But, 47 years ago, she's like, this kid, every day is so special. Just look at the clouds and the birds. But what I want to ask you is your spiritual techniques with your clients and candidates. What kind of like avenues do you go with your clients and candidates, to get them to believe in what you're trying to say to them?
So as a coach, I have to understand them first. One of the first tenets of being a coach is to be an active listener. So I can't expect everyone to believe like me. Some people are atheists and they don't really have a faith. They believe in humanity, that they're humanists. And so I have to really hear them first and really understand what that looks like for them, what their map of the world is. And from there, we build together. I am not the leader in the coaching relationship. I am your co-creator.
Yes.
I stand with you and help you. I ask you the active questions or the questions that bring some kind of deeper thought to the client. And from there, we decide together, hey, what is the best way of doing this? And if at some point during the journey, you decide, hey, this doesn't work for me anymore, cool, let's go back to the drawing board and figure out something else that works for you. This is about the client discovering and figuring out what works for them, having someone who they trust to help guide them to that space. So, in terms of spirituality, of course, I hold space in my own way because it's my charge to do that. It's always my intention to lead to the client to their highest and best self. That is my intention always for anyone I encounter, actually, but especially for those clients. So it's important for me to hold space for them as well. I have to hold the space and say, okay, who are you? What makes you tick? Have you had challenges? Let me tell you, there's a lot of Christians that have some Christian hurts, and they continue to go along this path of, I got to be this kind of Christian. And it's like, okay, come on, let's, but you hear the hurt behind the thing, and you have to kind of uncover that thing first because now you're going into this Christian path with angst. Where is the love? You're doing it, but you're doing it begrudgingly. You know what I mean? So we have to kind of really unpack a lot of those things before you can go into this really safe, soft space of belief and tapping into your own way of spirituality. Sometimes it changes, it evolves. Mine certainly has evolved over the years. And so I have to be listening for that, and I have to listen for the thing beneath the thing. What are you saying, and what are you not saying, in order to bring them to a new space of connectivity to whatever their source is.
I love it. The thing beneath the thing. I like that.
Exactly.
And I'm your co-creator. I like that too.
Words like that. Incredible. Last question I have, Kimberly, for you is pretty much, give me maybe a quick minute of a story that just will inspire everybody that you like dealt with over your time.
Hmm. A story about
Like a
what?
candidate, you worked with and, were a client.
So, I have two good ones. I think I'll go with the client. So, I had a client once that was struggling with being a mother, a wife, and still trying to find herself. And she had given everything over to being a mom and being an employee and left zilch for herself. It was probably one of my most challenging clients because to reframe, to remove the guilt of wanting to continue to identify as the person she was first before she became a mother, a wife, an employee was very hard because they had hinged so much of their identity to those other labels and completely, like I said, forgotten about who they were. So it took about 6 months to really help them remove the guilt, remove all the things that everyone was saying, including their parents, were like, oh, you have children now, your life is over, you live for your kids now. And it was kind of like when my mom said, I have to do this. And it's like, okay, but what do you say? Where's your voice? So after a while, it took, like I said, a lot of excavating, a lot of reprogramming, a lot of tapping into what feels good for that client. And around the fifth month, they became really angry. They were really angry at themselves and at what they felt they were told to be. And once we broke through that anger and we finally got to that point where she was just like, oh, then we were able to kind of like dismantle the whole thing and build from the ground back up. I still keep in contact with this client. We speak about once or twice every couple of months, just for me to make sure she's still good. She's no longer an active client of mine, but I feel so responsible for making sure she stays on the path and that she stays in her happiness and her authenticity. That I'll just check in every now and again, like, hey, how's it going? You haven't backslid, have you? You still looking for yourself? Okay. All
I
right.
love
You need
that.
anything? Okay. All right.
You
So
never forgot them. Kimberly, you always follow up. And I tell our audience, always stay in contact with somebody.
yes, you have to. You have to. You don't want
Oh,
to just take their money and then send them on. Like
no.
you care. I care about my clients. So it's important for me to stay in touch with them.
I love it. I love it. Oh, Janine is on. She says, yay, my loves. This is a great convo.
Hi, Janine.
All right. So this is going to be my Black History Month question.
Okay.
If you're anything like me, and I know you are, in terms of your experience in corporate America, I know you have a Black History Month story. So, if you
I'm
feel
gonna.
if you feel comfortable, can you share either your best / worst? Because sometimes, a lot of times, they're just funny. Black History Month celebration at work experience.
Oh gosh. I have to say, luckily for me, and ironic at the same time, I really haven't had anyone be, weird or be weirdos around Black History Month.
Okay.
What one, and I'm going to leave it on a positive note because I'm just going to do that. So I remember we had a potluck back in the day when potlucks were okay before Rona. And it was like everyone bring a dish that represented who they are and what their backgrounds are and things like that. And granted, it was for everyone, but it was around Black History Month, right? So oftentimes when you see me, you're not thinking, okay, you see Black woman, you don't think any other additional nuance. And I know you know this, Kirsten, that my parents are from the West Indies.
Mhm.
So I brought curry chicken and it was quite an eye opener because, again, no one knew culturally that that's how I identified.
Right.
But when I brought it, it was just kind of funny because it was like I knew there was something, and I'm like, well, what does that mean? What do you mean you knew there was something? But I brought that, and it honestly created a great deal of dialogue
Okay.
during the day. I learned a lot about a lot of people. One person there was Muslim. I had no idea. And they brought something, akin to what that would have been like. And it was a great day at the end of the day because it opened up dialogue and it helped everyone kind of understand a little bit more about each other. And I think there's so much, it's so important to humanize people. Again, going back to we're so transactional all the time that you forget that there's like an actual human person that is showing up to do the work. And so when you're able to have additional dialogue that allows you to kind of humanize a person and to go even deeper to humanize a Black person,
Mm.
I think it's very important because we are not monolithic. I say this all the time. We're not just one blank sheet here. We are very complex, very nuanced. And if you take the moment to just kind of go a little bit deeper, just one layer down, you might be surprised at what you find. So that is my Black History story. Black
Okay.
History Month story.
I like it. I like it.
Yes.
And for the record, I say this in love and in empathy because Kimberly keeps me in line. Please, please stop having Black History Month themed potlucks at work. Please don't do that. I mean, I don't do that. Please.
It was a while ago. Hopefully it's been banished, but
Well, there are people that are going back to work, and I get it. You want to celebrate. Don't do that.
but no? Okay.
No, don't do that.
No.
You've been warned, people. You've been warned.
There it is. Straight from the trap.
All right, Kimberly. Please. Just don't like. Now I'm seeing flyers with MLK and a Dookie rope. Like I can't stop. Like don't do it. So anyway, Kimberly, please tell folks where they can find you online.
Oh yeah, you can find me. I mostly interact on IG, Instagram for the other aunties out there. And it's at Verdant Bloom. Simple, straight up like that. I'm also on Twitter. At Verdant Bloom LLC. And you can also find me on Facebook at Verdant Bloom.
Yes. Please connect with her to learn more about her wonderful business. It's about coaching and wellness. You understand? Wellness.
Very important.
We're going to recommit to wellness if you haven't already. If you didn't do it in January, February is a great month to recommit to your wellness. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you again, Kimberly, for being on the show. Next week, we have another treat. Jasmine Wilkes, better known as HR Jazzy, will be on the show for another Black History Month special edition. We'll see you. And thanks again, Kim. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody. See you next week.